Hello everyone, welcome to episode 2 of LEGO Rewind. This episode is a direct follow-up to the last one's focus on Ice Planet 2002, a LEGO Space sub-theme. Today's episode is all about Mars. Life on Mars was another LEGO Space sub-theme released in 2001. Like Ice Planet, it's one of those themes that introduced some game changers and had a bold look that helped to stand out from the crowd. The theme featured over a dozen sets if you include polybags, which is pretty good for a short-lived LEGO Space sub-theme. They introduced new sand colors, some of which have since been retired, but others of which are widely used today to add texture or complement other brighter colors. They also introduced air pumps that could be used as a means of transportation between bases connected by these aero tubes. Those tubes weren't a huge focus of the theme, but considering how much interconnectivity there was between the hangar you could say was the core of the whole line and the other sets, it was pretty significant. He had some nice astronaut sets that tended to be charming if a little plain, but the real meat of the theme was the Martians and their crazy technology. The Martians themselves were sort of a hybrid of the classic human minifigs and the battle droids that are still used today. One of the things that helped set them apart from the droids was their legs, which looked pretty organic. I think it's a shame they didn't give the Martians matching arms as opposed to these more distractingly robotic looking ones they did at the time, since pieces like that do exist now. They just came a few years too late, I guess. Life on Mars is one of the last themes to include dark turquoise pieces, a color that's been used prominently in lines like Technic Competition, Rock Raiders, and some early construction themes among other things, even making it into Bionicle for a time. Seeing as the color's since been retired is just another thing that makes a Martian stand out. They enjoyed BLTs, racing, and soccer. And they were named after stars like Altair, Antares, Centauri, Vega, Canopus, Cassiopeia, Mizar, Rigel, Pollux, Arcturus. It's pretty inspired. I always thought this guy was the main character of the theme. He kinda reminded me of Flick from A Bug's Life with those giant eyes. He's also the only Martian who has hair, oddly enough. The Martian sets usually featured robots or speeders, or both, and the bigger ones are what people really remember this theme for. These are some cool mechs. Primitive by today's standards, but great for the time and still fun today. I only ever got these 3 sets, but those were enough to show the theme's strong points. This was given to me by a friend for my birthday, and I couldn't have asked for a cooler first taste of the theme. I love how chunky and bright and powerful it looks. Most of the sets had a good price to part ratio for the time. It's almost exact for some of them. The only really weak set is a Solar Explorer. That entire middle section is just a flap into a couple of beams and you're basically paying $10 for that flap. You know what makes up for it though? Taking off the shuttle's engines and putting them on the mech for use as a jetpack. Yeah, isn't that great? Even that dumb middle section could be used in a cool way. Now this buggy looks like it's part of a caravan, and here I guess the wheels are used like boxing gloves? And just look at this crazy combination. It's like a train with feet. This was the best thing about these sets. Most of them were comprised of several chunks that could be mixed around with other sets, all with the use of these peg holes. It was quick and easy play that worked so well. This was something you'd see a lot in older space themes, ships and stuff separating into smaller components that could be mixed and matched, but it wasn't done as much after Life on Mars. A little bit here and there, sure, it never really went away. But the play pattern has made something of a resurgence in this year's Next on Night sets, with the larger ones including chunks that could be removed and clipped onto the mech suits to upgrade them, and also to a smaller degree, last year's Bionicle sets. It's a gimmick I wish we would see in more themes. I don't think any theme has done it as extensively or cleanly or with as many diverse elements as Life on Mars has. The biggest set I ever got was basically an entire story in itself. This scorpion shape is one of a few possible configurations. You can attach the rear of it, stick the front pair of legs under the head, and boom, now you've got a fully functional bipedal robot to go with the other 2. And it doesn't stop there. I'm sure some of you have noticed that the hangar is a red gate and blue gate and have figured out that those were made for the red and blue mechs to dock with, but this tube doesn't seem to go anywhere. Well, that's because the third dock comes with this set, and is bigger and more intricate than the others. A bigger dock for a bigger mech. This is basically the other half of that set. I've never seen any displays of all of these in one place with the mechs docked and everything, but I imagine they must look impressive cobbled together. If there's anyone who's managed to get their hands on all of these sets, I hope they upload photos of their collections someday. If they do, I'll link it in the description if they want. The story was simple. Astronauts from Earth crash land on Mars and encounter native Martians. You'd think the Earthlings would be hosed, but in a refreshing twist, the Martians actually opt to help the astronauts repair their ship, probably like this. Oh, they're reasonably wary of these potential invaders at first, but they're able to work together to fend off a rival faction of Martians that's besieging the friendlier ones for the resources, and the good Martians don't turn against the astronauts or anything. That alone is pretty brave, or at least it would be if LEGO released a similar theme nowadays. As I mentioned in the first episode, LEGO Space has shifted further away from exploration or civilian life towards raw, repetitive combat, and I can't think of a true example of this shift in focus than Mars Mission, released in 2007. Not that long after life on Mars, really. In the past, LEGO would have a few space themes running alongside each other that could be supported for years before being discontinued, as each line was treated as just another one of many factions within a larger galactic community. It's part of why they're called sub-themes, because they aren't quite their own separate themes, but they aren't quite the same theme either. M-Tron, Blacktron, the Space Police, the Ice Planet crew, you didn't really have any combat within a single line. You would just have an entire line of good guys, bad guys, or the working men, and you could have them interact in crossovers. To my knowledge, Life on Mars was one of the first space sub-themes, if not the first, to feature multiple factions within a single line, though this was a rare case where the humans and the other side weren't fighting each other. Mars Mission, on the other hand, is like getting two lines in one box, conflict in a box, as some would say, which you'd think would be great, as you're getting more stuff. But in my view, this was Mars Mission's ultimate failing, as it limits what you can do with these sets. While Life on Mars had a unique and expansive range of colors, Mars Mission narrows it down to white and orange for the humans, and black and green for the aliens. And yeah, I called them aliens, not Martians, because they aren't from Mars at all, but are competing with Earth for Mars's resources. It's like a new gold rush. Earth is experiencing a worldwide energy crisis, and these green crystals will fix everything if we just collect enough of them. Oh boy, that's another thing that got reused in a lot of LEGO themes. Crystals aplenty. These aliens have a pretty clear Independence Day influence, mostly in their ships, but also a little in the designs of the aliens themselves. They have barely any of the cute personality the Martians had. They're just soulless, faceless mush, which seems to have been the intention. Some have suggested this is a continuation of Life on Mars, but the only way I can see that working is if these invaders killed the Martians for their territory. You know, like we did to the Native Americans. I'm hesitant to even call it a spiritual successor, as it doesn't have that much in common with the old theme aside from one or two vehicles and the pump gimmick, which in this case is used to transport alien prisoners or power a giant 4-barrel gun. Blech. To the theme's credit, it does have some excellent sets. That mothership is pretty impressive. That giant 4-legged drill? That's awesome. And is completely dwarfed by this tank. Just look at all the bionicle pieces hanging off that thing, and look at how sleek and spacey and complete that shuttle feels compared to the old one. Too bad it has a giant handle on the bottom. Then you have the occasional one like this that actually does look like it came from an old LEGO space theme. But something about these sets just doesn't draw me in. I think it's a lack of character. I actually did buy one of these sets, the Alien Strike. It was okay, but after building it I had a strange lack of satisfaction. More to the point, I didn't have any attachment to the goopy, lifeless alien that looked the same as all the other aliens or the equally generic astronaut. Even the ship didn't have any major lasting appeal to me. It was just a dark, fairly cool design, and that was as deep as it got. It was pretty shallow. Just minutes after I finished building the set, seconds even, I experienced my first case of buyer's remorse I'd ever had with a LEGO set. So I did something I still can't believe I got away with and haven't done since. I took the set apart brick by brick, put them all back in the box, taped it shut, and returned the set to the store. And they accepted it. I mean, I didn't use the stickers or nothing, so it's not like the set was any worse for wear. I don't advocate that anyone ever do this, and I definitely wouldn't do it now. I was just a dumb teen at the time, who was usually pretty careful with how he spent his money, and immediately regretted investing in this thing, despite it being a perfectly good set. This line just didn't hook me the way other LEGO themes have since then. Mars Mission has some cool builds, but it doesn't have a lot of personality, which can have a surprisingly powerful effect on someone's choices. Ice Planet 2002 had personality. Most LEGO space themes have personality, even the newer ones. At least Alien Conquest has something going for it, with the goofy campiness ran the same ballpark as Tim Burton's Mars Attacks. Mars Mission was just a weird blip that went as quickly as it came, with good but fairly repetitive designs and bland characters. It's what happens when you suck all the whimsy out of a LEGO space sub-theme and make it mindless combat all the time. I'd like to see a true spiritual successor to Life on Mars someday, something less cynical that promotes discovery and peaceful coexistence with other races. That was nice, wasn't it? The one time they did it. But I guess the kids of today just don't find that cool. Maybe kids don't like things like friendship or working together, and the lack of fighting stopped these sets from selling well. It's kind of a shame to say the least. Whatever the case, I hope you enjoyed this look back at these themes. Which of these two themes did you enjoy more back in the day? Which do you think left a bigger mark in LEGO's history or had a bigger influence on builders? I don't want to be the only voice here since I'm sure my bias is showing. In episode 3 of LEGO Rewind, we're going underground. Twice! And you might be surprised by which of the two I think turned out better. If you'd like to see this series continue, you can help make it easier by sharing these videos and checking out my books. Toodles!
Mars exploration log day 1. We didn't have a smooth landing, but we're okay. It appears we're wrong about there not not being life on Mars. Very wrong. I've never seen anything like it.
Push your courage farther than it's ever gone. Hope you enjoy the trip.
Your encounter may vary.